Hello and welcome to another episode of Transcontinental Overload. I am talking to Shakti today, an ATCK who is also a scientist, writer and educator. What's an ATCK, you ask? This term has come up on this podcast before, but if you haven't heard it, it stands for Adult Third Culture Kid. Now, I'm going to read the Wikipedia definition. Third culture kids are children who are raised in a culture other than their parents or the culture of their country of nationality, and also live in a different environment during a significant part of their child development years. Shakti didn't know she was a TCK until she was an adult, hence the term Adult TCK. She was born in the Netherlands to a Belgian father and an Indian mother and has known cross-cultural living from an early age, moving to Delhi, India on several occasions, both as a child and adolescent. And then she also experienced life in the US, in Boston, for a year and a half, where she accompanied her husband on an assignment, before returning to the Netherlands, where she lives today with her husband and son. Shakti is the author of the book Colors of a Cultural Chameleon. Where are you from? Life gets interesting when one has no simple answer. I have to admit that I hadn't read the book prior to our conversation, which is not something that normally happens. I usually do my homework a bit more thoroughly. But in this case, I just didn't have the time. And actually, I quite liked it because it made it fun for me to learn about Shakti's story during our conversation and not knowing it in advance. And no, the book is actually not a memoir. It was going to be one, but then became something else. It became a mix of fiction and Shakti's own memories, and she'll be talking about this process in our conversation and also about her other projects. We talk a lot about writing, but mainly it's a conversation about what it means to be part of more than one culture and what it's like to share this with your community, and what it means to belong and what it means to bring up children with more than one culture. So let's listen to Shakti's story. Welcome to Transcontinental Overload, Shakti. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here and be able to chat with you. Thanks a lot.
Yes, I can't wait to hear your story. Well, let us know where you are right now, because I know it's like 9:30 in the morning here, but not where you are.
I'm in the Netherlands, near the German border, and it's like 3:30 here, afternoon.
Okay.
And I just got home after a long day at work with kids, but I'm happy to be here and refreshing to just be able to chat with a grown-up.
Well, I'm glad to be here for you. Yeah, well, it's you. I've been having conversations with people recently that I didn't know really much about, so I really like that. It feels very. Sometimes, I have podcast guests who I've followed for a while on social media, or I know through other circumstances. Or they've written a book, or that I've read, and but sometimes I don't know much, and you're one of those people. So, and I always love that, because it's like a whole exciting new story. And I know you've written a book as well, but I haven't read that yet. And I'm sure we'll get to talk about that. But yeah, why don't you just take us on the journey and go right back to the beginning?
Yeah, I love that part of what you said as well. Like, just meeting someone you haven't met before, you don't know anything about. I think that's also one of the things I love. I love meeting people, and chance encounters are my favorite. And like you said, I wrote a book, and the mantra of the main character is trust a stranger and new doors open. And I think that's definitely my mantra as well. And it happens so often, and just it's just wonderful. Like last week, I went to get a new passport, and I was waiting to be called. It took a while, and normally most people will get agitated, but this lady sitting next to me, she said something, I responded, and 15 minutes of wonderful chat, and then after that, like, my day continued in a wonderful way. So those things I love, just meeting people and being able to find common ground, and just to be able to chat and interact with people. I think that's what I love a lot. And but well, yes, coming back to where it all started, I think also like just being interested in people is also something that I notice many people who are cross-cultural have in common. So I'm both Belgian and Indian, but also Dutch because my dad's Belgian, my mom's Indian, and I was born in the Netherlands. But I lived in the Netherlands for most period of my life, but I also lived in India as a child from 1 to 3 years of age. And from 8 to 15, I lived in Delhi, the capital, big city. I was talking to the kids today as well. It's like a completely different world compared to where I'm at the moment. But I noticed like when people have different backgrounds, they're aware of different cultures, different backgrounds, different. Then they're also more interested in other people, and then you know that like different ways of looking at the world and interested in knowing how others see the world. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically
yeah.
from when you were little, your mind was open to that. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Also there is a difference in I mean, I grew up in Europe, in Germany, and we would go every holiday, we would go to, you know, Italy or France or Spain or something like that. And so you kind of you grow up with that awareness that there are other cultures, but it's very different when it actually happens in your own family. And when you do get to live in a different place, especially at a young age.
Yeah.
So you were kind of, not that you can probably remember that much from being like 3 years old, but I guess from, what did you say, 8 to 15?
Yeah. Yeah.
That must have had quite an impact on you.
Yes, and it did. But the thing is, so it interested me when I started writing the book. The reason I wanted to write, so I in 2015 I moved to the US with my husband. He got a scholarship, and I said, okay, I'll quit my job to follow you. But then what am I going to do? Because I need to do something. I want to do something. So I decided I'll take a sabbatical, and then I'm going to write. But I wanted to write my own biography because I lived in India at my age. But my memory is quite bad. I'm like, I adapt and then I forget things. And I wanted to actually know what happened. Why did we move? Which experiences did I have there? What happened? All this nitty details. I wanted to know those. So I thought, my memoir, my biography. And currently it's interesting. So you asked me how was it impactful? Because I've written the book now. I'm not exactly sure which are really my own memories and which are which is what is fiction and what's non-fiction, because part of the book is based on my own story, but it's not like my memoir. Because I started when I was in Boston. I went to writing classes, and the teacher gave prompts, and his first prompt, coincidentally, was write about your first home, and that was amazing because first home, there were so many first homes. So my mind got like working overtime, and I wrote a couple of like really short, like 4 pages of beginning of a story. But when I came back to the Netherlands, I thought I have all the small bits of pieces, but I want to do something with it because people enjoyed reading those small bits. And I was like, I just don't want it stuck in the computer. I want to do something with it. And then when I started rewriting, suddenly lots of fiction came. Kind of rewrote this a story emerged, not my own story, but a different story, and with parts my own and parts other people's stories, and just my own imagination. So currently, it's quite difficult to know what's real and what's not real. But some of the parts are like, for example, when I remember when I went to India, I had learned some Hindi, and I spoke Hindi when I was 3 years old. But how much does a 3-year-old speak? You don't speak a lot, but so I had some knowledge. But I know it was like it was quite daunting to have to actually speak that language in the class. And I remember sometimes being teased a bit by my pronunciation. And I went to India to revisit friends, and I was like 18. And I remember very vividly that one of my friends, she said, come on, Shakti, just quit the accent. Just talk normal. Because I had moved back to the Netherlands. I didn't have the Indian accent anymore. So like, don't say Ganges, it's Ganga, you know? Like, why you, or don't say Himalaya, say Himalaya. So it's like, and I didn't even notice that I had changed in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. But then, I mean, coming back to talking about memory, it's because it's astonishing, and they've done these studies where people are comparing notes from a time, and yet the memories are completely different of what happened and how it happened, and even when you're completely convinced that your memory is correct, and you completely you remember vividly what happened, and the other person's like, no, that's not what happened, and so you have to kind of question.
Yeah.
And I'm actually always really surprised how much you forget, because you very often I think, oh, I'll never forget this. This is amazing. But if I don't write it down, when I started writing a blog and now I'm also writing or trying to write a memoir. I'm not sure whether that's going to happen yet or not. But and I go back to blog entries from like 10, 12 years ago, and I would have totally forgotten. I would have no way of recalling something. And yet, because I had written it down in detail. And then, but then this funny thing happens when you read something, you're like, yeah, that's happened because I wrote it down, but it could be someone else's memory. I don't have any recollection of it. And then it's like, well, I guess the writing fiction is then not a big step, because you're like, well, could as well be fiction, because I don't know. Yeah.
True. And what I love about writing, like I really discovered the joy of writing when I was in Boston. I mean, I used to write. I used to have blogs, travel blogs, when I traveled the world. You know, but then I had to like write what I was actually experiencing. Although maybe the experience is different than what I actually put on paper, but still, you know, people want to read what you're doing. Shakti, tell us.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed taking people along on my journey. But when I started writing the book, I realized there was so much fun in like changing, like just adapting, and just it could have happened, but it didn't happen. But it could have happened, and what would have happened if it had happened? And then like just creating a whole own story, and then it starts living. It's like a whole new
I took a recent memoir writing workshop with a UK author, and she said, or she was talking about what she wrote in one of her memoirs as a little intro. She wrote, everything in this book is true, but whether things actually happened, I don't know. And I thought that was that's exactly,
spot
you know,
on.
it's
spot on.
So I think that was astonishing, and I hope I'm quoting her correctly. I'm gonna have to look that up just to double check. But yeah, so that totally resonated with me as well. But let's go back to, because you're mentioning Boston, and so what we kind of stopped where you were like 15-year-old Shakti moving back to the Netherlands, right, at that point. And I mean that's such an important age.
It is.
Yes, your parents, you had that background of, like you say, your dad was Belgian, and
I had lived in the Netherlands before, but
so, and clearly, and then you know you were in touch with people and family on both sides and all that, but still 15 years old and moving back to the Netherlands after years in India. What was that like?
Yeah, you miss out on stuff, right? Like, so every summer I used to come back to the Netherlands on vacation. So there were like one or two people I still was in touch with. But you miss things because the culture here, pop culture, is different from in India. So that's like one of the that you miss. And as a teenager, like that's a teen, that's important. But I guess and you, who am I? Do I fit in this class or not? And those are things that definitely played a role in like settling back in Manila village where I grew up. But having said that, it wasn't that big of a challenge. And I suppose because that's the way I am. I look for people with whom I can connect and form my own small community, my own home, my own small community. And I remember I came into a class where the kids, as I was, this village where I live was near Amsterdam. So a very different kind of mindset from the people where I'm now. And I was not like oh, I didn't have all makeup and like, I wasn't like all dressed up. And I was like, no, wasn't important for me at all. But in my class, that was quite a thing. But I found the one or two girls who also didn't have any interest in all that. So we bonded. And in the other class, the other section, there were a few girls with whom there was an instant click. I connected with them, and they were also people who were like, they were like-minded, and I was able to connect with them, and that was, I found my own community. Yeah.
That's amazing for a 15-year-old to know that or have that trust. I mean, I don't know if it felt like that at the time, but because I mean, in some ways, I was gonna say also, in moving at that age is super tough because you as a you just want to fit in, right? You want to fit in.
Yes.
You want to be. You don't want to appear like someone who doesn't know things and doesn't know how things work, but at the same time it's a time where you don't know your identity. You haven't got your identity fully set yet anyway.
No,
So you're
true.
kind of always looking. And so it's in some ways, because I just going back to that age, I remember fantasizing about going somewhere else, moving and being new and starting again and like having that freedom of just reinventing myself. And so in some ways it could be a really freeing experience to just
it's daunting to me, if you say reinventing yourself, because you actually want to fit in, right? Like if you're in a place and you fantasize about moving to a different place, oh wow, I'll finally be free, be able to be myself. But then if you're in that place, then you're not busy with those things at all. You're busy in like, okay, who are these people, and how do I fit in? How can I like act similar
well,
things?
You want friends, you want to be popular, you want people to like you. That's the main thing. And I think that isn't even, it's like I remember not even wanting to be like everyone else. I knew I was different a lot of the time, but you just want to be, you don't want people to look at you and be like, no, who is she?
That's the most important thing.
You just want people to like you. And that's when you're like, when you start kind of molding yourself so that you fit in with what people expect. And then it's how true can you be to yourself? So that's why it's so impressive when you say like you just found the kids that were also less, because it's like you were not prepared to put on the makeup and just fit in. You were like, no, I don't like that. So that's a really kind of sign of strength, I guess, at that age to have. And I mean, I love the trust and I will find my people. I love that.
And when you say that, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't realize I was like that happened. But that's true, and it's happened throughout my life. But I also noticed that so I was fine in the school. There were things like, I mean, like it's always the case, but I didn't fit in my class. I didn't fit well in my class. But the other class, where I had a couple of friends, that section, that group, they were all different. They were like they all were like, well, everyone is unique, and they were all different. They didn't all tick the same boxes. And I would have fit in that group really well, but I was placed in this one. And that's life, right? Like you have to
so relate to that.
But interestingly, because one always wants to belong, but I also realized I always found my group of people. So when we moved to Boston, again, I looked. I don't know. It happens organically. It happens naturally. But finding people with whom you can connect and people where you belong. But having said that, in my working life, it was definitely not the case. I quit my job 4 years ago, which is the best decision ever. But I used to work in a corporate field, and there I was constantly adapting myself. I was like completely a chameleon, trying to adapt to the work ethos, and that was not me, the person that I was. I tried to adapt, and I tried to be the kind of person that fitted in those companies. But that made me unhappy, and I was not like that was not a good fit for that. And then
Wow.
I
Yeah.
realized that it was all trying to change myself, and I guess it's also something I learned from being a cross-cultural person, having lived in different countries.
Hmm.
So I'm very susceptible to different things, like to subtle differences in what people say and how people react. And when you go to a new country, that's good. I mean, it's good to be able to understand and try and pick up the signs but then not staying true to oneself.
It's not healthy. It's not
It's not
healthy
healthy. No.
in the long term. What is it you do now? Just because I didn't ask you earlier.
Nowadays, I give science and technology education to primary school kids. So STEAM, science, technology, arts, maths, all very creative as well with the arts and science part. And I was also creative, but I used to design setups for environmental cleanup plans.
Okay.
So quite.
So what's So let's go back. So you went to college in the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And when did you move to Boston? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I think when I moved to Wageningen, I did find like-minded people, but I think when I started like trying to fit in, trying to adapt, and also realizing probably it already started in school, or actually it's always been the case, trying to fit in. So in India being the Indian Shakti, in the Netherlands being the Shakti, so that's always been the case. So when I finished my studies, met my husband there, we both started. And then in 2003, my husband said, I'd like to write for a grant that could take me to the US. Go ahead. We will see if it gets accepted, and I'll move it to Boston. And it got accepted. And actually, for me, that was also a good phase in my career to take a step back and do something different. And it's been life-changing. It's really been life-changing because that's when I realized in Boston, I realized that I love doing many things, and not just like going to your office and doing all this projects at the computer and everything.
What did you study? What was your degree?
Biotechnology.
Okay. And so you worked in that sector when your husband got that opportunity. Okay.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll quit my job and then try to see if it could work long distance. But then my boss said, no, that won't work. It was pre-corona, of course. I said, no, that won't work. Okay, fine. And I became a sales agent for 1 day a week in Boston. So I had some kind of some security. But then what else will I do? And then I thought, okay, I'll write this book, my memoir, because I lived in countries. But then I thought, oh, wait, hold on. My mom lived in different countries as well. And hold on, my grandmother, she lived in different countries as well. So, oh, wow, this is fantastic. I'm going to write a generational biography. Fantastic. I would really, and I hope one day, I hope to write that book. But that's like quite a big challenge if I've written a book to write such massive thing. So
the time will come. The time will come. I think it's one of those things when you have it in you. I mean, I say that because I feel the same way and I still haven't done it. So, but
getting there.
Something is niggling at the back of your mind. Then I think at some point it'll come out. That's what I trust in. It'll just flow out when the time's right.
I definitely think that too. And I think I need to write these books before I'm able to write that book. And also just practicing the art of writing.
Yeah. So basically you were like, okay, for the memoir, I really actually have to write my mum and my grandma's memoir at the same time. So I have to talk to them and ask them and
yes, I did. Yeah. Yeah, I did. And that was also fantastic to be able to do that. Unfortunately, my grandmom passed 2 years ago, but I was able to jot down some of the important things. And probably that will also become part fiction and part non-fiction, because it's also all about the vibe that you want to convey, right? Like, what is it? I mean, the not the most important, as long as you're able to convey what was important, what's the essence of,
and if you can evoke feelings.
yeah. But in Boston, I realized I thrive when I work on different projects and with different people in different settings. So someone I met there, she told me, oh, there's actually a vacancy at the Dutch school. Would you like to teach Dutch? I'm like, but I'm not a teacher. She said, that's okay. There is a professional teacher, and you go there, give it, and then they'll see whether you're fit. So I did that. I said, yeah, sure, you're well fit. So come on. And I gave Dutch to primary school kids for a year. And I always joked about it, because I was like, I am teaching Dutch, which is like going to spelling. I moved to the Netherlands at the age of 15. I got a 1 on my spelling test, which is like terrible, 1 out of 10. So I was like, and then me.
And now you're a teacher.
So now I'm a teacher. I'm teaching Dutch.
Yeah,
So,
but see, this is like, it's like whatever you do at school, none of it really matters if you think about it.
yeah. You do. Yeah, true. And I did that, and I this theater. We formed a group of students or other spouses in Boston, and we performed bad auditions by bad actors, which was fun. 3 months, we all got together, people who had never acted before, and got together.
I love it.
There was one director who had directed before, and it was fantastic. Just I loved it. Yeah, for me, it was life changing, because just also all the people I met, and that's actually where I first heard the term of third culture kid, and I'd never heard that term before.
It's a fairly new term, I guess. It's not something that people were so aware of as a term, or also difficulties that brings, and I think that's a more recent.
Yes, because I think I hate ticking boxes.
It's a label.
Yes, it's a label. But if there are labels, or if there are like boxes, and I'm like, okay, then how do I fit in or don't I fit in? Right. So if there are boxes, I need to fit in, but I don't like to label people. So I realized, oh, I'm TCK. I started looking up more on it. Then I realized, oh, I'm not an actual TCK by the pure definition of a TCK. Because, well, I didn't live in that many countries, just 2 countries. And it is, the Netherlands is not my dad's home birth country, but it's quite similar, but there are differences. And you get kind of like thinking about it and analyzing it. And then, who am I? And I'm like, yeah, but the experiences that they describe as a third culture kid, definitely those are how I feel about it. I'm like, cross-cultural kid, definitely, but there are so many. And why give it? Why do you have to like give it a name or like a very specific definition? No need. I mean, if you can describe what it means, that's I guess most important.
Sometimes I guess with labels like that, or fitting in a box, I think it just helps in the broadest sense of the word to because if you say, oh, I'm a TCK, and then someone else will know instantly what that means in terms of your sense of identity and all that. So and that regardless of how many countries you've lived in, or with your parents, whether they're from one country or from it doesn't matter. It doesn't have any, whether it's strictly defined or not, but it just sums up so many aspects of your personality. And I think sometimes it's just nice to have a word or a term that it's like, that's why I'm the way I am, is because I'm a so-and-so. And so for that, purely for that, I think it's very valuable to have
Yeah, for me it was an eye opener as well,
Mm.
realizing, oh, that's it. Okay, interesting. Yeah, and also realizing that people with whom I have an instant connection, instant click,
Hmm.
are often TCKs or CCKs.
Hmm.
Like often people who are broad-minded. We don't have like
Yeah.
a fixed view on yeah.
Yeah.
So and I actually have a small piece in my book. I could read it to you, which kind of
Would
describes that part.
would love
Shall I?
to. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll start with the first. It's in de per Kamala, or mijn Belgium met per dat goeie. Toen ik 7 jaar was, ben ik naar India verhuisd. And now I live in Cambridge. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not realize you do not understand nor speak these languages. I will continue my speech in English. I was brought up multilingual and multicultural, and I must confess that this type of code switching is definitely one of the downsides of being multilingual, or maybe one of the benefits. Sitting at our 1 by 1 meter flimsy foldable dining cum study table, I was preparing for next week's Toastmasters speech competition. Being in multicultural Cambridge and surrounded by people from all over the world, some of whom are bringing up their children in a country outside of their own, made me reflect on being a cultural chameleon myself. Preparing for the icebreaker speech was the first time I put such thought, and probably the first time I actively thought about this matter. And then I'll continue. John was privileged to work at MIT for 2 years. So now we lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts. This was the epicenter of New England, and I was on a self-proclaimed sabbatical. No 9 to 5 job to keep me occupied. Weeks before we crossed the Atlantic, I had a recurring nightmare, an apprehension of being stuck in a flat in suburbia USA, wilting away while John was at work. I hoped that living close to Harvard Square would partially solve the problem and provide ample distractions. These were my terms and conditions for our venture across the ocean. From the onset of our stay in Cambridge, I made it a point to keep myself busy. Tidying up the house was one of them, and surprisingly, I found pleasure in such mundane household chores. It was of utmost importance to me that I would not be stuck in between the four walls of our condo. I made it a habit to leave our tiny apartment each day. I needed a purpose. Attending events and workshops where I could intermingle with people became one of them. Shopping became the other. After dinner, John pulled out his laptop. He needed to work. I opened my notepad. I wanted to remember and to cherish our time spent in this amazing place. I laid the foundation for my own community in this foreign land. I became part of the MIT Spouse Partners Group. In Belgium and the Netherlands, I was unique. Here, I was one of many cultural chameleons. Here, I belonged, among like-minded and similar people. Couples from 2 different nations and young adults who were born and brought up in different countries, living in a land that is not their parents' country of birth, nor their land. We were all in the same boat, the same world. We all wanted to help each other row the boat to a safe and enjoyable haven. Social cohesion. This MIT Spouses and Partners group was where I started building my community in communist Cambridge. I started writing in my diary, recalling Jackie from China, Dabele from Iran, Maria from Mexico, Jessica from the UK, and Sandy from the US. We were all in the same boat, the boat of uncertainty and the fear of loneliness. Together, we discovered the stages of honeymoon and disintegration during the process of cultural adjustment to a place we now call home.
Oh, I love it. And isn't it, it's so fascinating, isn't it, how you find your like-minded people, and that I've always felt though, and this is maybe, I don't know, I felt that about the US in general. As a country, it still has that melting pot vibe about it. And I mean, we also
Yes.
we moved
Yes.
to California when we first moved to the US, and Silicon Valley, which is also like so varied and
Yes.
so diverse. And we were, it wasn't we got there and we were like one of the many families from
Yeah,
different countries.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
it's, and I instantly felt that, oh, I can be, I can
Yourself.
just be well, I can be all the things.
Yeah.
I can be German, but I can also be British because, you know,
Yeah.
I have the accent, and this is where we moved from. And there wasn't no one tried to put a one label on me.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was, like you said, you find the people who go through the ups and downs, and like
Yeah.
the
True.
honeymoon, you said, the
Yeah.
honeymoon and the disintegration. Absolutely. uh
Yeah.
and but I found that just generally with the US, it still has that
Yeah. What I found amazing was that people knew their ancestry, they knew their roots. Like I've
yeah.
met people who said, and without like just knowing that and being proud, not being not like sticking to that culture or saying like I'm Italian, but just knowing,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my great grandparent was Italian, or my great grandmother was
Mm-hmm.
from the Netherlands, for example. So they knew that, and were proud about it without like being, so without being like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not American, I am actually Italian, for
Yeah.
example. Yeah.
And for me, because I had lived in the UK for over 10 years, and I realized when I was in the US and people would ask me about my German background, and I realized that I had suppressed that for the last 10 plus
Hmm.
years, because it wasn't something I
Yeah.
was encouraged to talk about in the UK. It was
True.
more like I was trying to suppress that and be as British as I could be.
Yeah.
And
True.
I realized all of a sudden in the US how uncomfortable I felt all of a sudden having to dig all that out. And then but then realized, but
Mm.
that is, it's part of me, it's part of
Yeah.
my heritage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden people are like, that's fascinating, and I have a German name, and I'm like, wow. And it felt so, it was such a nice it felt like a hug, you know, after
Yeah.
being kind of
Yeah.
dismissed, or like, ugh, uh Germans. And you
Yeah.
know, it was really interesting. So
Refreshing. Yeah. And I can
yeah.
imagine also like it's the time and age, because I when I taught Dutch to the kids, some
Hmm.
had both parents from the Netherlands. They had like
Hmm.
moved to the US and were going to move back. Although for for the kids it was not back because they were born in the US. So but for the parents it was moving back. But there was also, I remember one man, his daughter, he was born in the US. His parents were or his grandparents were Dutch,
Hmm.
I think, or his parents, like, and I remember that he told me that they try to assimilate when they move to the US, which means
Hmm.
you don't keep your own culture, your
Hmm.
language. No, you assimilate means you vanish. Like
Yeah.
you don't yeah, your culture, you have to like be American, which means you don't speak Dutch, you
Hmm.
speak English, right? And which is a shame, because now his daughter was learning Dutch, and he was through her, he was also learning. He also wanted to learn the language, and he visited the Netherlands and kind of like
Hmm.
rediscovering his heritage. And I think it's important to like stress on the fact that I I think you should adapt to your to the new country. Like you should take on things and give,
Hmm.
but it's not like completely, yeah,
It's
block
not black. No,
your,
no, it's not black and white, and it's not. You don't have to be one or the other. And
no.
especially with language. And I love that you said it's like the grandparents were Dutch or something, but someone clearly realized
Yeah.
it's important to have that connection to the roots. And
Yeah.
language, I think, is one of the most the primary things that will connect you. And it's such a gift. Learning
Yeah.
languages is such a gift that you can do that.
It's, yeah.
What a nice job as well. And I guess for parents, when you have children and you have the option to speak
Yeah.
different languages to them, it's
Yeah.
amazing, but at the same time it's such hard work and it requires so much time and commitment. It doesn't
Yeah.
just happen, because people always seem to think, oh, they'll just learn it automatically. It doesn't, it's not the case at all, and you actually really need to invest the time. So
Yeah.
for you, if you can send your kids to a class where they can learn it, where it's like external help, so priceless,
Yeah.
so important.
And they also create their own community, like of other kids who speak that language. Because I think for kids that's also important. Because so I
Oh
have
my
a
God, yeah.
eight-year-old, and I had planned to raise him bilingual. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually um, I wanted to speak Hindi to him, but Hindi is not my mother tongue. English and Dutch are. So when after he was born, immediately I started speaking in English to him. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my mother tongue, I suppose. So both Dutch and English are. And I spoke solely English to him the first year because I was a stay-at-home mom first year. And then so English was came naturally to me to speak to him in
Mm-hmm.
English. I wasn't working. I was staying at home a lot, so I spoke in English a lot. And my husband spoke in English as well because we lived in Boston. In Boston, we spoke English so all
Mm-hmm.
naturally. Then I started working when he turned one, and suddenly I started speaking both in English and in Dutch to him because those are both. I mean, I code
Mm-hmm.
switched the whole time, and they both come natural to me. And in Boston, I'd heard during a conference that they said Opal is not necessary. So one parent, one language is not necessary. It's also okay if you speak different languages.
We didn't. I didn't do
Yeah,
Opal either. Yeah,
no.
didn't work. It
So
just didn't work for us. It didn't work for
no.
us.
And
Mm.
I knew that, so I was like, okay, it's okay to
Mhm.
to mix and match. The only side effect is that if you mix and match, when they don't have the necessity to speak that other language, they probably won't speak it. Or well, it'll take time before they start speaking it. So
Mhm.
he understands everything in English. And now at the age of 7, he started speaking as well. So that's wonderful. But it took time. But the interesting thing is Hindi. So I also read to him stories in
Mhm.
Hindi, and I have the picture books in Hindi and in English. So I read both to him, and it's nice. And he says, "Oh, Papa, you can't read it. Mama, come, can you please read this book to me?"
Yes.
So and we when we traveled to India, so he's proud. He's really proud of being well of mixed cultures.
What about your mum? Does she speak Hindi with him?
English. Yeah, she speaks English with
And
him.
that's
So
due to her own history of growing up and being living in different countries.
well, no, no, that's India. Many middle class, upper class people speak in English a lot, and she in the south, in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, and in
Hmm.
the north, in Delhi. So I guess also moving to Delhi is where she spoke a lot of English. So she speaks Tamil, Malayalam, Hindi, and
Hmm.
English fluently. So that's like a mix. So whenever I speak to my mom, I speak in English, mixed with Hindi and mixed with Dutch because she speaks Dutch as well. She understands Dutch as well. So it's always like a mix of all three, yeah, languages.
Obviously, because you speak Dutch, so for your son goes to school and has difficulty with homework, then it's fine. You can help him with that, because that's the other
Yeah.
thing. And in some
Yes.
families, that's not the
Yeah.
case, where or immigrant parents don't speak the language
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
and can't help. And it's I mean, you can overcomplicate. It is complicated and it is difficult, I think, to raise
Mm-hmm.
children with several languages. It does require a lot of
Effort.
awareness
Yeah.
and effort and time, but at the same time, it's simple too. And I think you can overcomplicate things. And so, like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, Opal, the one parent, one language thing, to me was always, and I thought that's what we were going to do before I
Mm-hmm.
had children, and
Yeah.
then realized it didn't feel right at all for me. And I decided to just not even worry about that, like
Mm-hmm.
you did. It's just, I
Yeah.
don't, it doesn't need to be that. And some and people can be very dogmatic, and other
Yes.
parents of multilingual children can be very dogmatic and very much, no, you must do it this way.
True. Yeah.
um and it is, I think, incredibly important to find your own way
Mm-hmm.
and to not overthink.
And to not put too much emphasis on it, I suppose, because it's in my case, I mean, I wanted to raise him bilingual, but if he
Mm-hmm.
would not be bilingual, it was okay. The
Mm-hmm.
important thing was that he understood both languages. I mean, that he understood
Absolutely.
English.
Yeah.
Because I remember like 2 years ago, I was like, oh, 3 years ago, I was kind of a bit disappointed that he wasn't speaking in English. But then I realized he does understand it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's important. And then I mean, and each child is different. I suppose he wants to be, when he just thinks he wanted to do it well. So
Mm-hmm.
he didn't speak. And now, I like last year when he was turned 7, he actually makes sentences in English. And now when he turned 8, just out of the blue, he speaks in English.
Yeah.
So, like
It's
he does code switching actually, right? Like without emphasizing on it. Yeah.
he's seen it modeled all his life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Living it.
I also feel like it's like you just have to let things just go with the flow a lot of the
Yeah, that's
time. And I
definitely
think
one of my yeah.
and I guess, I mean, I've been with like families where the mother would only speak the one language, and if the child didn't reply in that language, she would just pretend like she didn't understand and things like that. And I was like, that's just no, I can't do
No.
that would not work for me at all. And I have two kids, and I did exactly the same with the two of them, and yet their approach to speaking German was completely different, and they are completely different in the way they react
Yeah.
and interact with me,
Hmm.
and yet they can both speak it really well. They
Yeah,
might not,
that's
one of them
it.
speaks pretty much exclusively German with me, the other one not at all, unless we are in Germany.
Yeah, 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 fantastic. Yeah.
And but it's fine, and I never made it, but you must speak it now.
Yeah.
I just never did that, and they're both fine. So it
Hmm.
like it works, and whatever we did and however they responded, it works. And yet probably it could have worked better had I
Yes.
maybe made
I
more of
just
an
yeah.
effort. And but it's like I don't care, I just wanted them to
Yeah.
communicate and to like I said, understand.
What's important, but why are you doing that, right? Yeah.
And the most important thing, I think, is, and I said this earlier, I think it's the connection to the country and the culture.
Yes,
And
yes.
with language, whether you speak it well or not, that's completely, it doesn't really matter.
It's
But that
irrelevant,
have
yeah.
access to it and understand it on that level, I
Yeah.
think that's what I wanted them to have.
Wonderful. I think the same. So in Hindi, so my understands some words and is very proud that he's able to speak those words. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, my husband doesn't speak Hindi. He understands, but also because Hindi is spoken in code switching with English, so it's if you know
Yeah.
the context, you can understand. So if because my husband doesn't speak Hindi, I wouldn't feel comfortable speaking solely in Hindi to my son. And on
Mm-hmm.
the other hand, my Hindi isn't. I mean, I've been living in the Netherlands for so long. My Hindi is not that perfect anymore. But I do like to expose my son to that. And more importantly, just realizing there's more in the world. There's just not just the Netherlands, and not only the our bubble in the school he goes to. And we celebrated Holi together, which was wonderful. So he asked me, I think after Christmas, he asked me, so, oh, what's
Mm-hmm.
the next celebration? So I said, oh, that's my birthday. He said, but no, but something that everyone celebrates. So I was like, well, Easter or Holy. Oh, Holy. He said, but only we celebrate Holy. So he was a bit
Mm-hmm.
sad. So I said, no, but let's invite others to our home
Mm-hmm.
and we can celebrate it together. And it was just a wonderful experience. And also his friends, they really enjoyed it. And the parents said, thank you for providing us with this insight and
That's
like
beautiful.
giving our kids this window of well, looking into to a different life and different
Actually, I mean, if you
culture. Yeah.
think about it, it's like more celebrations. I mean, what's not to love?
Yeah.
You know?
Do you know what was amazing? I don't know how that happened, but when I was a kid in India,
Mm-hmm.
in the where we lived, I remember like I think we were I don't know 7 kids all in the neighborhood living in the flats, and we celebrated all festivities together. We celebrated Christmas,
Hmm.
Ramadan, Eid, Holi, Diwali. So somehow somewhere I vividly remember those conversations we had, and all the other kids were like 100% Indian, but I remember how we talked about the fact that shouldn't be any differences, and we're all one, like that one. Like, I can talk about now, like wow, that was like a
Hmm.
wonderful wonderful set of kids together, just
Yeah.
celebrating things together. Like you said, the more festivities the better, right? So
Yeah,
that's it all, and
absolutely.
I think that was probably one of our one of our uh goal reasons why we did that. But yeah, it
Mm.
was just good to be able to celebrate it together. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
And
lovely to be able to share that with our children.
yeah,
I mean, who knows what they're going to pass on,
yeah,
as they get older and what things they celebrate. And but I really love and it's such a simple kind of unifying thing to have a celebration and to want to share that. I think it's
yeah,
such a basic human thing. I mean,
yeah.
obviously, because I mean, and we all love different foods and learning things. And I always
Hmm.
assume that you just want to learn about other cultures, and so
I
I would,
assume that too, but that's not the
no,
case. But
I know
yeah,
it's just
it's
it's crazy. It's maybe we see things through a different lens, but then at the same time, I don't know.
although
I whenever you talk to people and
yeah.
you talk about trying different foods or learning something about a different culture, people in general are so interested. And
Yeah, and I think so. If people meet other people from a different
mm,
background, different culture, different background,
hmm,
when they actually meet and interact, that's when they
yeah,
understand, and then that's when they appreciate. And if it's just like a big number, a big
hmm,
those the Indians, for example, or the Moroccans, or the Americans, then it's just like it's just a generalization, and that definitely doesn't work. But when people are able to interact with others, that's
hmm,
when they can appreciate and find common ground, right? Like
yeah,
understand. Oh,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I love
it's
that about for example, the summer solstice, which
hmm,
is celebrated all around the world, and
yep,
actually all around the world, day and night
hmm,
same, like the equal
hmm,
hours of daylight, equal hours
hmm,
of darkness, and that's all around the world. And this year, it was actually it coincided with Easter, with Holi, with Ramadan. So
oh,
when I celebrated with the kids, I created a new what do you call it, a new tradition, which I hope to continue next year as well. We
mhm,
painted Easter eggs. So that was the Easter part. We split them in half, and we
mhm,
pass on one part to the other person, to the person
mhm,
to the right. So then they had two halves of the Easter egg, like which symbolizes well, summer solstice, and then knowing that it was celebrated all around the world also made impact. And then we had
mhm.
the colors for Holi, and we had like yeah. But I think I mean it was just impromptu, some spontaneous idea I had at that moment. But then I realized this is well, that's what it's all about. Just
Very much so. And then, so, I mean, sometimes I think we are maybe more sensitive
hmm.
to this topic as well and the importance of it
Yeah,
because of our experiences.
I think
And
so.
but deep down, everyone, I
Mhm.
just very naively maybe think everyone wants that. And
Yeah.
I think having children who kind of are bridging all these different cultures is that's a big part of it too. So
Hmm.
I
And yeah, and realizing that they are part of difference. So I know, like until a few years ago, as you say, I'm half Indian, half Belgium. But then
mhm,
somewhere I saw a hashtag on Twitter. I think it said both, not half. I'm like, that's it, right? I'm both. I'm Indian
uh-huh,
and Belgian. And I think 4 years ago, it's when I embraced being both, because I always used to like try to be either one or the other. And But that was always stressful. So always,
Hmm.
that's like the chameleon always trying to adapt, but the chameleon who has the colors and is able to show them, and that this is me. So
Hmm.
4 years ago, I started my own enterprise, and I said like, this is me. If when you contract me, you work with me, this is what you get. And embracing all those colors, I think it's what you wish for everyone. Appreciating all your different aspects and allowing them to, well, flourish.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful note to end on. Yeah. Let's be all of those things and not just one half or a third or whatever people want
Yeah, the
to
whole.
label. Yeah,
Yeah, the whole. Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Shakti. This has been beautiful.
Yeah, thank you too. It was wonderful. We could continue for for hours, I think, but it would be lovely to meet in real life and then over a cup of coffee chat. That's
Yes, oh my
always
God, I love that. I feel like the community we've built, I mean,
yes.
solely online really has been, that's where I love social media. This is my favorite thing about it because you can
Mm-hmm.
build community and yeah, definitely we'll stay in
Ever.
touch
Yes.
and
You never know when the chance encounters happen and chance
absolutely.
meetups as well. So
Do you ever come do you ever go back to the US? Do you ever
we
visit?
haven't been go back and yeah, just also show my son. And but interestingly, because it was only 1.5 years when I came back, and that's I think also one of the things that many people do face. For the people who stayed back in the
Mhm.
Netherlands, that was 1.5 years never happened, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, for us, it was like life changing. But then when we came
Mhm.
back, it was like it hadn't happened.
Well, I was going to say, so for the other people, they didn't really see it, but for you, you had so many epiphanies and so many kind of like moments of, well, getting to know
Experiences.
yourself better as well.
Yeah, yeah, allowing
So
the
intense.
cultural comedian to actually be a cultural comedian. For me, that was definitely life changing. And also, when I came back to the Netherlands, I saw my hometown because I moved back to the town that we had left. I saw my hometown through a different,
Yeah. Lens.
different,
Hmm.
different view.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, and that's the
That's,
wonderful way of going to, yeah, revisit when you go to a new place, but also when you go back to the place you've lived in. So when I go back to India, also I see it in a different light. I perceive it differently because of this, also because of age, but also because of yeah, the places change, I change, and
and your own
yeah,
parameters change and you appreciate things that you didn't appreciate when you were younger, maybe. And
yeah,
then,
yes, and I love that, and also just interactions and like that you realize. Yeah, that you see things that you hadn't seen before. You realize that you also realize maybe that there are things that you dislike that you hadn't noticed, and now you
mhm,
actually realize
yeah,
that you
yeah,
dislike those aspects of the place
yeah,
or other things that you appreciate more, of
yeah.
course. Yeah,
And yeah, so here's to, yeah, embracing it all and not letting one or the other define you.
exactly. I think that those you summarize it well. Yes, exactly. Yeah, be all those colors and yeah, wonderful. But
All
thank you
right.
very much for
Yeah,
this opportunity. I loved it, and
great.
I'm glad we connected.
Yeah, me too. All
Have
right,
a
take
lovely day.
care.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Shakti, for your time and your insights. The first thing I did after our conversation was to go and buy Shakti's book, Colors of a Cultural Chameleon. And I've now read it and absolutely loved it. Probably even more because I had this wonderful conversation with the author. If you're interested, the link is in the show notes. Anyway, I can't wait to hear what Shakti's new book, the follow-up to this one, will be like. I saw on her Instagram that she finished the manuscript, so that's really exciting. And I'm also curious about her other projects. Shakti told me that she was working on a children's book too, and that she still plans to write that 3-generational book that she mentions in our conversation. So yeah, that's still going to happen. Good luck with it, Shakti, and I'm really looking forward to reading all your work. If you're interested in finding out more about Shakti, her writing, and about how to write and publish your own work, then please check out her website and find her on Instagram. All the links are, of course, provided in the show notes. And before I go, please let me know if you are interested in being a guest on this podcast. Either talk about your story either in English or in German, or maybe, and this is kind of these are the guests I'm really looking forward to at the moment. If you have a destination special idea for me, if you have a place in the world that you would like to present, that you'd like to talk about and show us virtually, then please get in touch and we can set something up. I can't wait to hear from you. And that is it for today. I hope you all have a great September, and I'll see you next time.